The message spread across the stars like fire in dry grass. The Xerath Empire, one of the oldest and most feared powers in the galaxy, had declared war on Earth. No more warnings. No more negotiations. The announcement came through every channel, every intercepted signal, every broadcast. It was cold, sharp, and without mercy. Humanity has refused to kneel. Their resistance will be crushed. Their planet will burn. Their people will serve. The words echoed across ships, colonies, and hidden bunkers. To many humans listening, it felt like the sky itself had fallen. For centuries, Earth had believed war with another intelligent species was just a story from books or films. Now, it was reality. Cities lit their defense grids. Soldiers were called to the front. Families were torn apart as fathers, mothers, and children prepared to fight. Every street corner carried whispers of fear. Yet, alongside fear, there was fire, and anger that refused to surrender. Humanity had been underestimated before. Every empire that tried to chain them had failed. The narrator's voice draws close here, as if whispering to the listener, war had begun. A war Earth might not survive. But within that war, something unexpected was about to be born. Not a weapon, not a secret alliance, but something far more dangerous to both sides: love. On Earth, Captain Elias Ward stood at the edge of a ruined city. Smoke climbed from broken towers. The smell of ash filled the air. He wore the armor of the Earth Defense Forces, scratched and scarred from countless battles. His eyes were sharp but heavy with grief. He remembered the night the Xerath came. Their ships had appeared like dark moons in the sky, raining fire. His family's home had been one of the first targets. His wife and daughter, gone in a heartbeat. That wound had never healed. For Elias, this war was not just survival, it was personal. He swore he would fight until his last breath. Humanity might lose, but they would not bow. Far across the galaxy, Serenia Keel listened to the same broadcast, but from the other side. She was a commander in the Xerath military, loyal to her empire since birth. Her species was tall, sharp-featured, with pale luminous skin and eyes that glowed like embers in the dark. To outsiders, they looked like demons of legend. To themselves, they were the rightful rulers of the stars. Serenia had trained all her life for war, yet as she stood inside the command bridge of her ship, watching human cities crumble on her screens, she felt something unusual, a weight she could not name. The humans fought differently, fierce, desperate, willing to sacrifice everything for each other. She had studied hundreds of conquered races, but none had resisted like this. None had bled so hard for freedom. Her orders were clear: erase Earth's armies, break their spirit, bring them to their knees. But when she looked at the faces of captured humans, their eyes blazing with defiance even in chains, something stirred inside her. Both sides prepared for what they believed would be the final struggle. The humans called it the darkest hour. The Xerath called it the cleansing. Neither expected what fate was preparing for them. War is meant to separate. It builds walls of hate, mistrust, and rage. But sometimes in the middle of destruction, two souls find each other, souls that should have been enemies, yet recognize something deeper. Elias did not yet know the name Serenia. Serenia had not yet seen the fire in Elias's eyes, but their paths were already moving toward collision, a meeting that would change not only their lives, but the fate of two entire worlds. The broadcast kept repeating across the galaxy, each word burning into memory. Humanity will fall. The humans answered with their own vow: we will not bow. And in the silence between those voices, a question lingered. A question the narrator leaves hanging in the air, pulling the audience deeper into the story. Can love survive when entire worlds are at war? Every story of war begins with soldiers, commanders, and empires. But this story, though wrapped in war, is not only about armies. It is about two souls who should have been enemies, yet became something far more dangerous. To understand how, we must step closer. We must see who they are. Captain Elias Ward, the human flame. Captain Elias Ward had been a soldier long before the war with the Xerath began. Born in New Boston, one of Earth's rebuilt megacities, he grew up in narrow streets where strength and loyalty meant survival. He was not the strongest in his youth, nor the fastest, but he was relentless. He never gave up, never backed down, even when facing impossible odds. The invasion changed him. When the Xerath ships first appeared in Earth's skies, Elias was at home with his family. He remembered the scream of engines, the shattering roar as the first wave of plasma fired, turned towers into rubble. In that storm of light and death, he lost everything: his wife, his little daughter, his quiet life. From that moment, Elias became something else. To his soldiers, he was a symbol of defiance. To the Xerath, he was a thorn that refused to die. His armor was old, patched with scars from dozens of battles. His left shoulder carried the burn of a plasma strike. His right hand bore the rough calluses of endless fighting. But his true weapon was his will. He would not kneel. Every time he looked up at the night sky, where alien warships hung like dark clouds, Elias whispered the same words: "For them, I fight." He lived for vengeance, but he also carried something softer hidden deep beneath the anger. A need to protect those who still lived. A heart that, though scarred, had not yet turned to stone. Serenia Kale, the alien shadow. On the other side of the stars, Serenia Kale wore armor of a different kind. She was not human. She was Xerath, tall, slender, fierce, her skin pale as moonlight and her eyes glowing crimson. To many, her kind looked like nightmares carved from ancient myths. But to the Xerath Empire, she was a jewel, a commander born for war. From her earliest days, Serenia had been told what she must be. The Xerath Empire valued strength, obedience, and victory. Love, compassion, even doubt. These were weaknesses. She learned to bury them. Her ship, the Dreadwing, had burned through countless battlefields. Her strategies crushed human colonies in the outer systems. Her name was feared in whispers among Earth's soldiers, the Shadow of Kale. Yet behind that name was a secret. Serenia was tired. Tired of war without end. Tired of killing faces that stared back at her with fire instead of fear. She studied the humans differently from her peers. She saw how they fought, not because they were ordered, not because of empire, but because of love. They fought for each other, for families, for homes, for freedom. It confused her, it fascinated her, and slowly it cracked the armor she had built around her own heart. Serenia obeyed her empire, but inside, questions grew louder. Were humans really savages? Or was there something about them the Xerath could not understand? 2 worlds apart, Elias Ward and Serenia Kale lived on opposite ends of the galaxy's greatest divide. He was a human soldier drenched in loss. She was an alien commander bred for conquest. One carried hatred for her kind. The other carried doubts about her empire. Fate had drawn a line between them, a line of fire, blood, and war. Neither could cross it. Neither should even try. And yet, sometimes the universe bends rules in ways no one expects. Sometimes 2 stars crash when they were meant to circle forever apart. Supporting figures. The story was not theirs alone. Around them moved others, shaping their paths. General Marcus Hale, leader of Earth's defense forces. Hard, unforgiving, willing to sacrifice anything to save humanity. He trusted Elias, but feared that loss had made him reckless. High Warlord Kareth Vale, Serenia's superior. Ruthless, merciless, a believer that humans were nothing more than pests to be burned. He watched Serenia carefully, waiting for a hint of weakness. The soldiers. The war did not begin with fire raining over Earth's skies. It began far away, in the cold silence of the stars. The Xerath Empire had ruled countless systems for centuries. Their armies spread like a storm, swallowing weaker races and bending them into servants. Most never resisted. Most bent their knees and survived. But when the Xerath fleet reached Earth's colonies on the edge of the solar system, they found something different. Humans did not kneel. The first clashes happened on mining outposts around Jupiter's moons. The Xerath expected quick victories, but the humans fought like cornered wolves. They turned broken machines into weapons, dug traps into frozen ground, and launched desperate strikes against ships far stronger than theirs. Reports confused the Xerath generals. How could a young species, without an empire, without advanced weapons, fight so fiercely? Why did they refuse to surrender even when defeat seemed certain? To Serenia Kale, watching these reports from her command station, the answer was strange. Humans were not fighting for empire or territory. They were fighting for survival and for each other. They carried something that Xerath no longer understood: loyalty born of love, not fear. On Earth, Captain Elias Ward and his squad moved through ruins that had once been a thriving city. The sky was always thick with smoke, the nights broken by flashes of distant bombardments. Elias's mission was clear: sabotage the Xerath supply lines, destroy what they could, and bleed the enemy at every chance. He and his soldiers became ghosts in the rubble. They struck hard, vanished fast, and left the enemy furious. But Elias was not fighting only as a soldier. For him, every blast of his rifle was a promise to the family he had lost. Every mission was a reminder that humanity could not be erased so easily. His soldiers followed him not because of orders, but because his defiance lit a fire in them. He carried grief like a shield, and it gave them courage. For Serenia, the war was different. She stood inside the warship Dreadwing, its hull dark and sharp like a blade cutting through the stars. Her crew obeyed her without question. They feared her reputation, the shadow of Kale, more than they feared the enemy. But Serenia carried questions her empire did not allow. She studied the humans not as pests, but as puzzles. She requested reports on their resistance, analyzed their tactics, and replayed captured transmissions. What she saw disturbed her. She saw soldiers laughing together even in despair. She saw families hiding in bunkers, refusing to abandon each other even when death was near. She saw a strength not born from fear of punishment, but from something far more powerful. Why do they fight this way? She whispered once, alone in her quarters. What drives them? Her people called humans weak, yet Serenia could not shake the thought: if this is weakness, why does it scare us? The galaxy turned its eyes toward Earth. To most, it was a hopeless war. Humanity was small, fragile, and young compared to the Empire. The Xerath had fleets larger than Earth's entire defense forces, weapons that could shatter cities in moments. Logic said humanity would fall. But war is not always decided by logic. In the shadows, plans began to form. Humanity was not fighting to win outright. They were fighting to make the war so costly, so painful, that even the Xerath might bleed too much to continue. Captain Elias's squad was chosen for a daring mission: infiltrate a Xerath forward base hidden in the ruins of a human city. If successful, they could cut off supplies and delay the next wave of attacks. It was dangerous. Many would not return. But Elias accepted without hesitation. Every chance to strike mattered. On the other side, Serenia Kale received her own orders. The warlords demanded that she take command of the forward base personally. They trusted no one else to handle the humans in that sector. 2 lives, 2 leaders, both walking toward the same battlefield. They did not yet know each other's names. They had not yet looked into each other's eyes. But destiny was already drawing its lines. War is a storm. It destroys everything in its path. But sometimes inside the storm, 2 sparks meet. Sparks that should never touch. Sparks that can light a fire neither side expects. The Xerath believed they were unstoppable. Humanity believed they could not be broken. Between those beliefs stood Elias Ward and Serenia Kale, about to face each other for the first time. The night was broken by fire. Captain Elias Ward and his squad moved like shadows through the ruins of old Denver, a city once filled with light and life, now nothing but broken towers and streets of ash. Their mission was simple but deadly: infiltrate the Xerath forward base, plant charges, and destroy their supply network. Stay low, stay silent, Elias whispered, raising a fist. His voice was calm, but every soldier could hear the steel inside it. They trusted him. They always did. The squad crept through shattered buildings, past glowing drones that floated like watchful eyes. Every step was a gamble. Every breath could be their last. Then it happened. A flicker of light, a hum of alien engines, and suddenly, the air exploded with plasma fire. Ambush, a soldier shouted. The squad scattered. The Xerath had been waiting. Alien soldiers, tall and armored, poured from the shadows, their weapons cutting through the night. Humans fired back, desperate and fierce, but they were outnumbered. Elias fought with all he had. His rifle roared, his blade flashed, but the enemy pressed harder. One by one, his squad fell, dead or captured, and then the ground shook. From the smoke, a new figure stepped forward, tall, armored in dark silver, eyes burning red like embers in the night. She moved with calm authority, her very presence making her soldiers stand taller. Serenia Kale, the shadow of Kale. Elias recognized her from whispers and intercepted reports. This was the commander who had broken colonies, the woman whose name was feared across the front lines. Their eyes met for the first time. For Elias, it was like looking into the heart of the storm. For Serenia, it was like staring into a flame that refused to die. "Captain Elias Ward," she said, her voice clear, sharp, but strangely calm. "The human ghost who keeps haunting my soldiers." Elias spat blood onto the ground. "You know my name. That means I've done my job." Serenia tilted her head. Her soldiers raised their weapons, ready to end him, but she lifted a hand. The order to kill never came. "Interesting," she said. "Most humans beg. You stare at me as if you would burn my empire to ashes with your eyes alone." "Maybe I will," Elias growled. Her lips curved, just slightly. Not quite a smile, more like curiosity. They brought Elias in chains to the Xerath base. His squad, though still alive, were dragged beside him. The halls glowed with alien light, walls humming with strange energy. Serenia walked ahead, her steps measured, her posture regal. She should have felt triumph. She had captured Earth's most dangerous captain. This was the victory her empire wanted. But inside, she felt unsettled. The human did not look broken. Even bound, even beaten, his eyes carried defiance. Most prisoners collapsed under Xerath control. He did not. She questioned him personally. Not with torture, not with cruelty, at least not yet. She wanted to understand. "Why do you resist?" she asked in the interrogation chamber, her voice steady. "Your world is dying. Your armies fall. Yet you fight. For what? Survival? Pride?" Elias glared at her across the table, his wrists locked in glowing cuffs. "For them." "For who?" "For my people, my family, my world. You wouldn't understand." A pause. Serenia leaned closer, her crimson eyes searching his face. "Perhaps I want to." The words surprised even her. Why had she said that? Days passed. Elias remained her prisoner. Serenia visited more than her soldiers thought necessary. She asked questions, not only about tactics or weapons, but about humans themselves, about families, about why they laughed, why they fought, why they loved. Elias resisted at first, spitting back anger, but slowly he saw something strange in her. She was not like the other Xerath commanders. There was no blind cruelty in her questions, only hunger, a hunger to know. And in rare moments, he answered. "You fight for conquest," he said once. "We fight for each other. That's the difference." The words struck her harder than plasma fire. In those stolen conversations, a fragile thread formed. Not trust, not yet, but something dangerous, a spark of understanding. Serenia knew she should break it. She should silence him, hand him to the warlords, and erase his name from history. Yet she didn't. Something inside her whispered, "This human is different." And Elias, though filled with hate for her kind, could not deny it either. Beneath the armor, beneath the red glow of her eyes, there was a mind that questioned, a heart that, perhaps, could feel. Two enemies, one war. And yet, in the shadows of that war, their first meeting had planted a seed. Neither spoke of it, neither admitted it, but both felt it. Something had shifted. War leaves no place for softness. For Captain Elias Ward, every moment in the Xerath base was a battle of will. His hands were chained, his body bruised, but his spirit refused to break. He told himself again and again, "She is the enemy. She killed your people. Don't forget." Yet every time Serenia Kale entered the chamber, his resolve shook. She did not treat him like a prisoner of war. She treated him like something else. She questioned him, yes, but not with cruelty. Her tone was sharp, but beneath it lay curiosity. When she asked about Earth, about why humans risked their lives for each other, her eyes burned not with hatred, but with longing for an answer. And Elias, against his own better judgment, sometimes gave her one. He told her about the little things, the way humans laughed around fires in the cold, how mothers would starve to feed their children, how friends would die for each other without hesitation. Things that no report or intelligence file could explain. Each word made the chain between them tighter, invisible but strong, and dangerous. Serenia felt it too. She had faced countless enemies, had crushed rebellions, and burned cities, yet none of it left a mark inside her. But Elias Ward was different. His defiance was fire, his grief was a blade, and his devotion to his people, so alien to her kind, gnawed at her heart. But with that pull came fear. Her soldiers began to whisper. Why was their commander spending so much time with a single human prisoner? Why had he not been executed? Some began to suspect weakness, and in the Xereth Empire, weakness was death. High Warlord Kareth Vale sent her a direct transmission. This human is not a trophy. He is a threat. End him before his defiance infects others. Serenia stood silent before the glowing screen, her claws dug into her palms. She bowed her head in obedience, but inside, she made no such promise. On the human side, rumors spread as well. Scouts who survived the ambush reported that Captain Elias had been captured alive. Earth's high command considered this both a blessing and a curse. If he still lives, he may be forced to reveal what he knows, General Hale said, grim-faced in the War Council. We cannot assume his loyalty holds under their machines. A silence hung in the room. He is strong, one officer argued. He would never betray Earth. Even strong men break, Hale replied coldly. For the first time, some doubted Elias, and those doubts planted seeds of mistrust. The conflict pressed in from both sides. For Elias, the challenge was inside himself. Could he keep seeing Serenia as nothing but the enemy? Or was he beginning to see something more, a person caught in chains of her own empire? He hated himself for even wondering. For Serenia, the challenge was far sharper. Her empire watched her every move. Her soldiers obeyed her, but their faith wavered. Protecting Elias was already dangerous. Protecting her own feelings was worse. One night, when the halls were quiet, Serenia found herself standing outside Elias's cell. She stared at him through the energy field, her heart pounding in a way she had never felt in battle. You should hate me, Elias said, his voice low, rough. My people are dying because of yours. Her jaw tightened. And you should despise me. Yet here we are, still speaking. Silence stretched between them. Then she said something no Xereth commander should ever admit. I do not know if I believe in this war anymore. Elias looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time, he did not see a monster. He saw someone trapped, just like him. The next day, everything became harder. Serenia's second-in-command confronted her. Why do you spare him? The warlords grow impatient. If you falter, commander, they will not hesitate to replace you. His words were polite, but his eyes were sharp with suspicion. She dismissed him coldly, but she knew the truth. Every step closer to Elias was a step closer to treason. And on Earth, General Hale prepared a contingency plan. If Elias returned alive, he would be tested, questioned, even suspected of corruption. The very people he built for might no longer trust him. Two hearts stood on a knife's edge. If they drew closer, they risked everything, their duty, their honor, even their lives. If they pulled apart, they would lose something they had only just begun to find. The war outside raged on. Battles burned across cities and stars. But for Elias and Serenia, the fiercest battle was now inside them. The war did not slow. It grew. Earth burned with every passing day. Xereth fleets struck harder, pressing humans back, destroying bases, turning cities into dust. Yet for every victory the Empire claimed, humanity struck from the shadows. Small, desperate attacks that refused to let the invaders rest. But neither Elias Ward nor Serenia Kale knew that the true danger was still hidden. One night, Serenia stood in her command chamber, studying encrypted transmissions. A red sigil glowed on the screen, sealed orders from the warlords themselves. She broke the code with careful precision, expecting routine strategy. Instead, her blood ran cold. The message was simple. Activate Project Obsidian. Complete planetary cleansing within 1 lunar cycle. Serenia's eyes narrowed. She scrolled through the attached files. The project was no simple campaign. It was annihilation. The warlords had built a superweapon, an orbital array designed to burn Earth's surface to ash. No surrender would be accepted. No human would be spared. Her claws dug into the edge of the console. She had seen war. She had seen death. But this was not war. It was genocide. And for the first time, she could not breathe under the weight of her empire's orders. Meanwhile, Elias sat chained in his cell, bruised and weary, but still unbroken. He had begun to sense the change in Serenia. Her questions had shifted. She no longer asked how humans fought. She asked why they lived, why they endured. When she came to him that night, her face was harder, her steps sharper. "There is something you must know," she said. He lifted his head, suspicious. "What now? Another interrogation?" "No." Her voice was low, almost trembling. "Your world has less time than you think. The warlords plan to destroy it completely. They have built a weapon, one that will burn your planet to dust." The words hit Elias like a blade. His chest tightened. His breath caught. For a moment, even he felt the edge of despair. Then the fire returned to his eyes. "Tell me where it is." Serenia hesitated. To speak further was treason, but she saw the raw fury, the raw love for his people, and she knew. "I should not," she whispered. "If they learn I've told you, they'll kill you." Elias finished. "So why tell me at all?" Her gaze met his, steady now. "Because I cannot watch them destroy you. Not like this. Not when I—" She stopped herself, the words choking in her throat. But Elias understood. He saw it in her eyes. The unspoken truth. From that night forward, they were no longer commander and prisoner. They were conspirators. Serenia smuggled fragments of information. Elias shared what he knew of human resistance networks. Piece by piece, they formed a dangerous plan to sabotage the weapon before it could fire. It meant betrayal for both. If Serenia was caught, her own empire would execute her as a traitor. If Elias returned to Earth with her at his side, his people would see only an alien monster. But neither cared. War had taken everything from them: families, homes, certainties. Now they had only this one fragile bond, and they were willing to gamble it against the fury of two worlds. The days grew darker. Serenia's second-in-command pressed harder, watching her with cold suspicion. "The prisoner should be executed," he said again and again. "Why do you keep him alive?" She silenced him with threats, but she knew time was running out. On Earth, rumors of Elias's capture spread like wildfire. Some called him a hero still alive in the enemy's hands. Others called him broken, already corrupted. Both were wrong. He was neither broken nor safe. He was caught in the storm. Together, they set their path. Serenia arranged a transfer of prisoners, an excuse to move Elias under guard. In truth, it was a cover for escape. The night was tense, filled with alarms and whispers, but the plan worked. For the first time since his capture, Elias felt the air outside Sereth walls. Standing in the shadows of ruined towers, he looked at her, truly free yet still stunned. "You saved me." "Why?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the storm within. "Because saving you may be the only way to save myself." The choice was made. They would strike the superweapon together. Enemies by birth, lovers by fate, traitors to both sides. And as they set off toward the heart of danger, the war around them burned brighter than ever. The sky above Earth glowed red. The Xerath fleets had begun their final push, tightening the noose around the planet. But hidden beyond the clouds, in orbit, something far worse waited: the superweapon, an enormous orbital array, black and shining, large enough to eclipse the stars. Its purpose was simple: burn Earth until nothing remained. Elias Ward and Serenia Keel stood together in the shadows of a stolen Xerath shuttle. The hum of engines filled the silence between them. For days, they had prepared, stealing codes, forging clearances, risking everything to reach this moment. Now, the target was in sight. Once we're inside, we'll have minutes at most, Serenia said, strapping on her armor. Her voice was sharp, but Elias could hear the weight beneath it. If we fail, we don't fail. Elias cut her off. His jaw was tight, his eyes burning. We can't. For a moment, their eyes locked. No more words were needed. The shuttle slid toward the weapons stocking bay. The station loomed larger and larger, its surface crawling with soldiers, drones, and cannons. It was death itself, waiting to strike. Serenia's forged codes held. The bay doors opened, and the shuttle slipped inside. For a heartbeat, it looked like they might succeed unnoticed. Then the alarm screamed. Unauthorized craft. Intruders. The bay lit up with red lights. Soldiers rushed forward, weapons raised. Elias and Serenia burst from the shuttle together. Plasma fire filled the air. Elias's rifle roared, cutting down the first line of guards. Serenia's blade flashed, her movements sharp and precise, every strike deadly. Back to back, they fought, human and alien, enemies by blood, but united in survival. They pushed through the corridors of the station, fighting deeper inside. Sparks showered from walls. Sirens wailed. Every step was closer to the core, where the weapon's heart pulsed with energy. Elias was bleeding from a cut on his arm, but he didn't slow. Serenia's armor was scorched, but her blade never faltered. They moved like two halves of the same force. Finally, they reached the core chamber. It was enormous, a cathedral of steel and light. A sphere of pure energy floated at the center, glowing with deadly power. This was the heart of the weapon. One overload, one disruption, and the entire station would collapse. Elias pulled the charges from his pack, hands shaking. This will do it, but once I set them, we'll have less than 5 minutes to escape. Serenia looked at the glowing sphere, then at him. Her voice was quiet. 5 minutes to save your world. 5 minutes to decide if we live or die. They began planting the charges. Every second was stolen time. Then the blast doors opened. High Warlord Kareth Vale stepped inside, flanked by soldiers. His towering frame filled the room, his crimson eyes blazing. His voice thundered. Serenia Keel. Traitor. Her soldiers hesitated, unsure. To see one of their greatest commanders standing beside a human was unthinkable. Serenia stood tall, her blade ready. This is not war, Kareth. This is murder. I will not be part of it. You are Xereth, he roared. You are mine. Not anymore. The battle erupted. Elias fought like a man possessed, his rifle blazing. Serenia clashed with the warlord, blade against blade, sparks flying. The chamber shook with their fury. The warlord was stronger, heavier, relentless. He drove Serenia back with crushing strikes. Her armor cracked, her body reeled, but she refused to fall. Elias saw her falter. Rage filled him. He charged, firing point-blank at the warlord, forcing him back. Together, they struck, Serenia's blade piercing through, Elias's rifle tearing into armor. At last, the warlord fell, collapsing to the ground with a roar that shook the chamber. But victory came at a price. Serenia staggered, blood staining her armor. The warlord's blade had pierced her side. She fell to her knees, gasping. Elias dropped beside her, catching her before she collapsed fully. Stay with me. His voice broke, raw with fear. We're almost there. Her hand gripped his, trembling. You have to finish it. Don't let my death mean nothing. No, Elias snarled. I'm not leaving you. Her eyes softened, glowing faintly. Elias, you already gave me more than I ever knew was possible. You gave me choice. The charges beeped. Time was almost gone. With one last surge of strength, Elias carried her, dragging her toward the shuttle bay as the weapons alarms screamed. Explosions ripped through the station. Fire chased them through the corridors. They barely reached the shuttle before the charges detonated. The station lit up like a dying star, the explosion tearing across the sky. The super weapon was gone. Earth was saved, for now. But inside the shuttle, Elias held Serenia in his arms, her breaths shallow, her skin pale. "Don't you dare leave me," he whispered. She smiled faintly, her crimson eyes dimming. "Even if I go, Elias, part of me stays with you." The shuttle roared away from the burning wreck, carrying with it not just survivors, but the weight of a love born in fire. The Earth was safe, for now. The destruction of the Xerath superweapon was broadcast across the galaxy. On every world, humans cheered, their faith renewed. Against impossible odds, they had struck down the Empire's greatest threat. But no one knew the truth. No one knew that the victory came not from generals or fleets, but from a human soldier and an alien commander who had dared to betray everything for each other. Inside the stolen shuttle, silence pressed heavy. Elias Ward sat on the floor, cradling Serenia Kale in his arms. The hum of the engines was steady, but her breathing was not. Her armor was broken, her side bleeding from the warlord's strike. He pressed his hand against the wound, desperate. "Stay with me. Please stay." Serenia's eyes flickered open. She was weaker now, but her voice carried the same strength as always. "You did it, Elias. Your people will live." "We did it," he corrected. His voice cracked, heavy with emotion. "Don't you dare think I'm letting you go now." Her lips curved in a faint smile. "If I fall, then let my last victory be this, that I chose my path, not theirs. That I chose you." Tears stung Elias's eyes. He had faced armies, torture, endless war, but nothing had ever broken him like the thought of losing her now. He bent his forehead against hers, whispering, "Don't die, Serenia. You're stronger than this, stronger than me." Time passed. The shuttle limped its way to a hidden human outpost on the far side of the moon. Soldiers rushed forward when they saw the craft, rifles raised. When Elias stepped out, carrying Serenia in his arms, shock rippled through the ranks. "Is that an alien?" one soldier gasped. Elias's voice thundered like a commander again. "She is not your enemy. She saved us. She saved Earth." Confusion spread, anger too. Some demanded her death, others whispered of betrayal. But Elias stood like stone, refusing to let her be touched. "She is alive because she chose to fight for us," he declared. "And if any man tries to harm her, they'll go through me first." The room fell silent. For the first time, humans looked upon Xerath not as a monster, but as something different, not an enemy, not a conqueror, but something more. Serenia was taken to the med bay. Her survival was uncertain. Elias sat at her side for hours, refusing to leave. He watched the machines fight to keep her alive. He remembered every word she had spoken, every glance, every moment that had changed his heart forever. When at last her eyes opened again, weak but alive, relief washed through him like fire breaking through darkness. "You stayed," she whispered. "Always," he said. But outside that quiet room, storms were already brewing. The Xerath Empire would not forgive her betrayal. The humans would not forget her face. Both sides would call her traitor. Both sides would call Elias a fool, or worse, a danger. Together, they had won a battle, but the war was far from over. And now, their love was more than a secret. It was a weapon. Weeks later, as Earth began to rebuild, Elias and Serenia stood at the edge of a ruined city, looking at the rising sun. "Do you regret it?" Elias asked quietly. Serenia shook her head, her crimson eyes glowing faintly. "I regret nothing, not if it means I stand here with you." He reached for her hand. She let him hold it. "Then no matter what comes," Elias said, "we face it together." The wind carried their words into the dawn. The moral: war divides. It teaches hatred. It fuels destruction. But sometimes, in the darkest places, something stronger is born: love. Love that refuses to obey borders. Love that dares to defy empires. Love that proves even enemies can find a shared heart. Serenia and Elias had no guarantee of peace, no promise of survival, but they showed one truth the galaxy could no longer ignore: that even in war, love can change everything. Closing hook for next story. As the camera pulls away from the lovers, the stars above flicker. A new shadow looms on the edge of the galaxy. The Xerath are wounded, but not defeated. And beyond them, other empires are watching Earth with hungry eyes. The narrator's voice closes. The war is not over. The galaxy has only begun to take notice of humanity, and the love between a soldier and an alien may spark not just a war, but a revolution. Fade to black.